Hey, what's up, everybody? Lee Sanders here. You're checking out episode number 996 of the RCWR show for this Wednesday night of January 18th, 2023. I gotta tell you, and I'm most curious how you guys have been doing since the news, but going into tonight's AEW Dynamite, the one thing that I went going into tonight's Dynamite was, well, you know what? This should definitely feel kind of special of an episode here because AEW, Ring of Honor, and let's really home in on Ring of Honor and the fact that it hasn't been that long since Tony Khan came into the acquisition of the promotion, Ring of Honor and everything. You're going, man, tonight should be a pretty magical moment. It should be a very sentimental moment. It should be a moment here where the wrestling community that is grieving over such a loss, especially in regards to a young man losing his life. I mean, 38. I just had a birthday a couple of weeks ago. I'm now 42, and just to hear, wow, somebody 38, in the way in which Jay Briscoe passed. You're just going, but, besides trying to take your mind off of what happened to just all of those people involved in that accident, let's really make sure, and yes, without a shadow of doubt, we definitely need to give Jay his flowers and everything, but let's not forget that another person lost their life as well in this horrific accident that went down Tuesday night. And lives on both sides of these respective families will never, ever, ever be the same again, sadly. I mean, that is the harsh truth. Sadly, these lives, the families that have to go on and pick up the pieces, their lives will never be the same again. And it's very unfortunate. But I went into tonight's AEW Dynamite just, okay, well, this should kind of have that Brody Lee type of vibe to it of a tribute show. And we didn't get that. And I got to tell you, as a member of the wrestling community, I couldn't help but feel cheated. I don't know if you guys felt that same way as well. But it felt like just a typical Wednesday night. Nothing significant happened outside the world of wrestling. Nothing monumental had happened. No, nothing much here. Just going with the flow of a wrestling show. And I got to tell you, just to see the way Tony Khan and crew had handled it, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. It really did rub me the wrong way. And of course, as we all know, many years back, Jay Briscoe having some choice words to say about the LGBTQ community, right? And he was put on blast for that. Man apologized profusely, went above and beyond to educate himself better for the sake of his kids, his family, himself as a man, owning up to the fact that he messed up and everything, that what he said was insensitive, it was cruel. Not just donated his money and time and resources, but as I always like to say here on the show, okay, you made a mistake. What's most important is what happens when you take that next step forward, because that's the one that everybody is really going to be paying attention to now that you've pretty much been put on blast. Yeah, everybody hears the words, but let's see the action back up this supposed change of heart and everything. And the man went above and beyond to change his attitude, to change however he was feeling or thinking. And there definitely are those that's part of the wrestling community, not to mention those that might be part of the LGBTQ community, that's also involved in wrestling that befriended Jay Briscoe, some going to bat for him. I'm sure you saw some of the toxicity, surprisingly, that was going on social media. I say surprisingly because, man, you just think about the people's respected families that are just in a total world of confusion right now. And you would think that if nobody has anything, positive to say, as far as thoughts, prayers, condolences, hey man, sending love your way, if it's not anything along those lines, maybe a person is just going to be quiet and just keep it moving along. But there were actually a couple of knuckleheads out there that were chasing clout. One individual particular, I'm not going to mention the person's name or anything, but there was one person, and I have found this to be quite astounding. There was one person that actually was chasing clout, trying to capitalize off of Jay Briscoe's passing by bringing up that thing that happened with Jay in the past, with the Briscoes in the past. And you went on this person's account and they did not follow any wrestling. They did not tweet about any wrestling whatsoever. So it was clear as day that this person was what their agenda was when it's all said and done. It was pretty obvious what they were all about. And social media, including myself, adding into the mix, we pretty much piled on top of that guy. I know some people had harsher things to say to this cat, but I guess it was too hot for him in the kitchen, because when it was all said and done, this cat ended up putting his account on private mode. So you have to be a friend of his, and he would have to accept in order for you to see his tweets and all that. But I guess he didn't feel that remorseful because he didn't delete the tweet that was in question and everything, right? But I mentioned that instance with the Briscoes some years back because, remember, we had heard within the past 15 months that apparently a Warner Discovery Media executive did not want for Tony Khan and crew to have the Briscoes on TV. No Briscoes on TV whatsoever. And you're going, wait, seriously? And sure enough, you look at everything that had been panning out since Tony Khan's acquisition of Ring of Honor, hell, even long before, but particularly once he did acquire ROH, nothing was happening there with the Briscoes. Okay, so they can't be on TV whatsoever. I thought for sure that there was going to be some type of a 3, 4, 5-minute tribute to Jay Briscoe. ROH, big bulk of his career. I mean, both of the Briscoes. I mean, just the legendary feuds that those guys had in ROH. So who's list of everybody that they feuded with in Ring of Honor? And just the access to the library that Tony Khan has. It would have been very, very, very easy to put together some type of a compilation, splice in some pre-recorded stuff from the AEW/ROH roster. Would have been very easy to do it on such short notice, but barely a peep out of this episode. And I don't know, you guys would have to sound off and let me know, but it just really rubbed me the wrong way, and it felt so hollow when it's all said and done. It felt very, very hollow. Of course, for those of you that maybe had missed the news and everything, Jay Briscoe passing away at the age of 38. As long as I have been on the air, there has been quite a few wrestling deaths, and I've been here to cover a lot of those, if not all of them. But this one goes to a whole new level, as the entire wrestling community really rocked to its core, shaken at its very foundation over this loss. And it's just a messed up way for a person to go out. And I remember when the news had first dropped on Tuesday night, just January 17th of 2023. I remember when the news had dropped. Here was the thing, though. Here's the thing. This is what was so crazy about it. I had spent most of Tuesday, I did work. I was still doing some last minute preparations. I was actually talking to a academic advisor. I was talking to a financial advisor because I'm getting ready to do the next wave of classes, just trying to make sure everything was on the up and up good and everything. Next thing I know, I go to work, and I actually laid very low from social media on Tuesday. And it wasn't until I got in from work Tuesday night, I'm kicking back, I'm chatting with the wifey. We're just kind of going back and forth. I don't know what I was watching. I think I might have been watching maybe Undisputed or something. I don't know. I was watching something. And at this point, it was about almost 11 o'clock at night. And I had finally got on social media for the first time that whole day to find out about Jay Briscoe's passing. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And it didn't make sense. I thought, surely this is a joke. Surely this is just, after all, we had 1 week there not long ago where a lot of people had said Saudi Arabia was now the new owners of WWE. It was a done deal, stick a fork in it and all that. So I'm going, man, this has to be some type of a hoax. It's got to be, right? It's got to be some type of a hoax. No, wasn't a hoax. As I had later saw Tony Khan, he did confirm apparently that night. So apparently everything had went down at about 7 o'clock in the evening in Delaware. And I have the official update here, the very, very latest. This is pretty much where things stand right now and everything. I'm not just going to, it'd be very easy for me to just come on here, just read and then just, that's pretty much it. But, we all got to try to make sense somehow. We got to try to process this right? So, if you guys are kind of like me right now and you're a little bit confused, you're almost at a loss for words, or you're in mourning, you're looking for an outlet to grieve, we're definitely here for you guys for this next little bit that we're live on the air and everything. And this is not your typical edition of the RCWR show. Normally we do ad reads, and we're not doing any of that tonight. Not on this show. Not on this show. I'm making sure that as far as monetization goes, all that is disabled for this episode. But the Delaware State Police, shout out to PW Insider. They were one of the first to put this report out there. So shout out to PW Insider, Mike Johnson, and them. Delaware State Police had gave some additional information here, it looks like. So on January 17th, 2023, approximately 5:09 p.m., there was a 2019 Chevrolet Silverado that was traveling westbound on Laurel Road, just west of Goose Nest Road. At the same time, you had a 2016 Chevrolet Silverado. This was a 2500 model. The other one in question was a 1500 model. But going back to the latter, the Chevrolet Silverado 2500, was traveling eastbound on Laurel Road in the same vicinity. And for whatever respected reasons, the driver of the 1500 Silverado pickup truck failed to remain in her respected lane, pretty much jumped over the center lane and entered the eastbound lane of Laurel Road directly into the path of the 2500 Silverado. So obviously you had yourself there a head-on collision between those two pickup trucks in the eastbound lane. For anybody that wants to maybe do a quick Bing Google search, you want to get a good look at those models, you're more than welcome to do so. The first one again was a Chevrolet Silverado 1500, and just from doing a Bing Google search, and you're looking at these are some massive machines. These are some pretty big, thick boys that you're going to be looking at here. Okay, it's kind of interesting too, because when you look at the 1500 model to the 2500 model, you're going, not that much of a difference, you know, when you look at it at first glance. But then when you're looking at the 2500 model, you're going, no, the 2500 model, yeah, I can definitely tell it's part of the same series and everything, but I can see the upgrades that they're making here. The 2500, it's got more of a slimmer, sleeker frame overall. It's smaller in the back, and it seems to be more heavier and wide towards the front. They've definitely readjusted the headlights, tail lights, and all that. They pushed it more up. You know, it's got like a more modern type of frame to it, basically, is the best way. You'll see what I'm talking about when you look at both images. But yeah, I mean, you got two massive vehicles like that crashing into each other head on. I mean, just think about the speed, right? Anybody that is a driver or that is currently learning to drive, you know, you definitely learn this when you're in DMV training classes, when you're studying up on that manual. You know, they tell you that, you know, that vehicle that you're in, it is a dangerous moving weapon, essentially, because you're in this hunk of metal that is going down the street, and I mean, heaven forbid you get into an accident. You know, it's like whatever you crash into, especially when you consider the speed. Okay, all right, enough said right there and everything, right? So yeah, head-on collision between these two vehicles. So the driver of the 1500 Silverado, she's been identified as 27-year-old Lillian Ternahan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name right. Apologies in advance. Looks like she lived in the Delaware area. She was wearing her seat belt. Now, apparently, she is deceased from what I understand. The driver of the 2500 Silverado, that was Jay Briscoe, and apparently he was not wearing his seatbelt. I cannot stress this enough, y'all. No matter what, you feel lazy, you don't want to do it, you gotta always put on the seatbelt, because it could really make a difference maker. It really, really could make a huge freaking difference. You know, I'm reminded of a friend I used to know from many years ago who had lost his cousin. And I'll never forget that weekend. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about Jay Briscoe. Just stay with me. It's all connected. Stands out to me to this day, though, because my friend's cousin had came up to hang out with us that weekend. It was at his girlfriend's house, because his girlfriend, she would always have these WrestleMania parties. And this was back in the day where, you know, you were getting it via cable, satellite. You know, it's very easy. If you're getting it by cable, it's very easy to rig the boxes so that you could freaking get it and everything. And so, you know, her dad knew how to rig the boxes. So anytime we wanted to check out a WWE pay-per-view, back in the day, we were always able to get the hookup. So this go round, we're checking out WrestleMania. I would have to really take the time and think about which WrestleMania it was that we sat down and watched. If I were to give you guys a wild guess, see, I couldn't even guess. I would have to hear the year, because I remember when the pay-per-view aired, we all were still in high school. That much I do remember. I want to say we were either in our sophomore or junior year in high school, but it was definitely a WrestleMania weekend. And his cousin had came up to pay him and his girlfriend a visit. And she was cool as fuck. I mean, for a tomboy, she was very big into the comic books. You know, she knew her stuff. She knew her stuff when it came to the comic books. She was awesome. Made a really cool impression on me. And yeah, she hung out with us that whole day, watched the pay-per-view and everything. As soon as the pay-per-view was over, you know, what we all had decided to do was, okay, well, you know what? You know, it's getting kind of late. Don't really feel like traveling this late. And back in those days, you know, you lived in D.C., you didn't really want to be traveling too late. You really didn't. Because, you know, depending on where you live, it'd be pretty rough. And in the neighborhoods that we lived in respectfully, it was definitely pretty rough. So, you know, it was decided with the parents there, that girlfriend's parents, that, okay, everybody can spend the night, right? So the girls, you know, they would basically take one bedroom, you know, do like a little double bunk bed type of deal. And then some of us would just crash in the living room. You know, I had a couple of recliners, all that good jazz. But his cousin had decided, no, I want to go ahead. I got to head on home. You know, I got some stuff that I need to do the next day and everything. So the plan was, though, for her and him to get together later that weekend, because I guess she wanted to hook him up with a stash of comics. There's like some stash that she wanted to give him. I mean, it was like a big stash. We're talking like a couple of 100 comics that she wanted to give him and all that. And so, you know, they had made a plan, all that good stuff. She rolled out. That was it. Pretty much we go into the next day, and, you know, we don't see him. We don't see him at school or whatever. We're kind of figuring out, like, what the hell's going on? Where is he? You know, said we'd see him at school. What's going on? And it turns out his cousin was killed in a automobile accident. She was in her 20s, if I'm not mistaken at the time, early to mid 20s. And it turns out what happened was she was on the road and she was trying to reach for something in her purse that the purse was not in the middle console. You know how we like to do it? Sometimes we'll put whatever in the middle console. That way it's just an easy, quick grab. Well, she had her purse on the passenger side, I believe, down towards the floorboard. And she was reaching for something, and whatever it was she was reaching for, only reason why I know this is because when somehow the coroners relayed to the detectives, and, you know, and so my friend, you know, he pretty much had told us, you know, hey, this is how they found her body. So I'll let you fill in the blanks, but how they found her body, how his position, all of that. Didn't have a seatbelt on. So it ain't no joke when you hear people say, you know, it might sound like a fucking chore, and let me tell you how serious seatbelts are in the Sanders household. Let me tell you how serious they are. My wife had recently went down to North Carolina. I told you guys, we talked about this on an episode of Wrestling with the Topics a couple of months back. But she had went down to North Carolina to visit some family members. And long story short, on the way back home, I don't know how Tams missed it, but she was speeding. Now, she had her seatbelt on, luckily, when she got pulled over by the state trooper. But the dad did not have a seatbelt on. Her dad, my father-in-law. And I said, shit. I'm like, and why was he not wearing his seatbelt? And she told me, she said, he said, because he doesn't need one. He thinks it's stupid. I said, okay, well, you know what, if he's going to operate like that, then he can't step foot in the vehicle. That's what I told her. I said, look, I said, you know, I'm not trying to tell you, you know, about your relationship with your dad. It was like, but it's like no joke. Like, if he's not gonna abide by a simple rule of putting on a seatbelt, he ain't got no business riding. Like, seriously, whether he's driving or he's riding shotgun, he's got no business being behind in that vehicle if he's not gonna do his part. Safety, right? So, it may sound silly, sound cliche, and all that other crap, but there's a reason why you gotta always make sure that you're wearing a seatbelt. I mean, even if you come out of it, as long as you're still alive, right? I think that's all that really matters, right? But man, it just, the odds of survival, it just really, really, I am just going through the motions here. You guys we're all trying to process this together. I did not prepare, I didn't rehearse or nothing like that. So, we're just going with the flow here. But, so, they were supposedly dead at the scene. Jay Briscoe and the 27-year-old woman behind the other vehicle, both of them supposedly were dead at the scene. Meanwhile, there were two passengers in Jay's truck, one a 12-year-old, one of them being his 12-year-old daughter, the other one being his 9-year-old daughter. And both of them luckily were properly restrained. So they did have some type of seat belts on, but they were taken via ambulance to a area hospital where they were both admitted in critical condition. Now, as it stands right now, as far as is it potential that alcohol was involved in any type of way, but more particularly the 27-year-old girl that was driving, that remains to be unknown at this time. I would imagine, as far as toxicology reports and all that, I mean, that could drop probably as early as next week. It could take as much as a month. It just really depends, right? It just really depends. But the roadway was closed for about 4 to 5 hours while police investigated everything that was going on there. So in a new update, because now your mind is on the daughters, what's going on with the daughters there. In regards to the daughters, Jay Briscoe's wife, Ashley, she had announced earlier this morning that 2 of their daughters were severely injured. So she did confirm, in fact, that, right? So she said, we need prayers. Gracie is on her way into surgery on her back. Jamin would want the whole world praying for his little girl. We believe the power of prayer. Pray for the doctors and everyone working on her. Pray for her precious legs to move again. So just to hear that a child is disabled, pretty much from the waist down, that a kid no longer has the use of their legs. Lord have mercy. Pray for Jayla. Is it Jayla or Jaylee? You gotta forgive me there. I try to not, wrestlers' personal lives and all that there. I'll say Jaylee. Jaylee, who has some pretty serious injuries but is stable and resting. Pray for Gannon waiting at home. Pray for strength for all of us. We have a long, long road ahead of us. So that's pretty much where things stand right now. I know that there were some reports, and I think these were people that were just guessing, kind of like what went down with the Saudi Arabia thing. You had people that had assumed that Mark Briscoe was riding in the vehicle as well. And it turns out he actually was not riding in the vehicle. I don't know who started that. I don't know if that was maybe somebody just trying to do a educated guess or what have you, but just kind of weird what was going on there. But honestly, I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what it was. It was probably somebody trying to. It's probably somebody just taking a guess and doing what they normally do best as far as clickbaiting and all of that other crap, right? Just trying to get those hits, kind of like the knucklehead that we had mentioned earlier that was chasing clout on social media, right? One of those type of deals, basically. Nothing more, nothing less. When you hear stuff like this, it really puts a lot into perspective, and I think the reason why this really rocked us as a whole in the wrestling community. Whoa, what the hell was that? I think the reason why this rocked us a lot in the wrestling community as a whole is because, you hear that, man, this is somebody still relatively young, 38 years old, still had, a good 30 more years plus of life to go, and in the blink of an eye he's gone, and these young kids are left behind. I believe he has 3 kids. These young kids are left behind. A beautiful wife is left behind, and somehow they have to collect themselves and they gotta push forward. But man, what a tough road that is ahead. I wouldn't wish this type of hurt even on my worst enemy. The level of sucker punch, a big old sucker punch. And what's really a major kick in this whole ordeal is the fact that the Briscoes were finally starting to get that recognition that they so well have deserved for many years now. I mean, those of us that's been, watching the Ring of Honor product long before Tony Khan even came into the picture and started doing his thing with it on YouTube TV and everything. We all had 2 eyes, those of us that at any time checked out the ROH product. Easily, we were able to pluck out certain individuals. These guys are the shit. For me, at the very top of that list, definitely the Briscoes. Of the 2, and I'm not just saying this because he's now deceased, but of the 2, Jay was my personal favorite. I thought Jay had more swag. I thought Jay was just killing it on the microphone. I thought he was a good showman. I kind of felt as though he was the better wrestler of the 2. That's just how I always felt, and I'm not just saying that, folks. I wish I could be on here and just saying I'm just buttering it up, but I'm just bullshitting. But no, that's the honest truth, and it's kind of nice to see that I'm not the only one that felt that way. There were other people on social media, that felt that same way towards Jay as well, and that opening to Dynamite tonight, very interesting. It was. I was definitely taken back by that because I put up a post when Dynamite had first opened up. They kicked it off with a little graphic of Jay Briscoe, and I commented. I said, "Man, I'm a little surprised that Dynamite didn't open up with a 10-bell salute." That really took me back. I was definitely surprised by it, and I even speculated even more. Let it be known I was speculating, but I say, it makes you wonder if they couldn't get that cleared because of the supposed Warner Brothers Discovery executive banning the Briscoes and everything. But I said, look, it's still early. Anything could happen, and at one point we heard Excalibur say, hey, we'll talk a lot more about Jay Briscoe, his life and career. But it never came to be and everything. I know Eddie had posed a question via Twitter and said, then why would they show a graphic of Jay Briscoe if WD banned the Briscoes from appearing? See, there's a big difference between physically appearing and then throwing up a graphic and then doing some type of a tribute. There's a big difference, to Eddie's question. If you're going to throw up a graphic and then you're going to follow it up later on by doing some type of a montage, well, you're going around that whole, hey, this person, no, we don't want to do business with them. They can never appear on Warner Media television. Right? But if it's a case where a person is deceased and you're trying to do a 10 bell salute and all of that, then, okay, well, the person physically, right? It's not really going to be a conflict, and under the circumstances, you gotta read in between the lines. I wish I could go back and forth on Twitter like that, but I've scaled back on social media. I don't really like going back and forth on that on that these days. It's not because of the toxicity, although it has gotten to me a little bit. But it's like, if I want to expand on a thought, I'm here on this show. This is what I do best, and I can expand on that thought. But I'm still personally surprised that they did not do the 10 bell salute and all of that. That's just me personally. You all can take that, run with it. Might not be a big deal to you. Maybe you expected more, less. If you were to say to me, Lee, hey man, they really didn't have that much time to prepare. It really was such a short notice, and maybe they're actually going to potentially do something next week. To that I say, let's wait and see. But I just kind of felt that what we had tonight was just so damn short, man. But circling back to Jay, I remember certain people that passed away over the years. I remember where I was when I found out the passing of Alice in Chains, Langster Lee. I remember the day I found out that Kurt Cobain died. I remember the day and where I was when I found out comedian Chris Farley passed away. I mean, there are just certain deaths. I remember where I was, Chris Benoit definitely being one of those. And with what happened with Jay Briscoe, that's what's so tragic about it all. It's just here today, gone tomorrow, blink of an eye. And it really just makes me, as a human being, say, especially as I'm getting older, I've been talking a lot more, there's a lot I talk about off air that I don't really talk about here on the show, but, off air, I've been talking with the wifey more and more about mortality. It's a conversation that, most people don't really, especially depending on how young you are, like most people don't. But when you're around my age and older, you do start thinking about your own mortality more and more. Than the fact that, hey man, yeah, you're at your peak right now, but in just a handful of years, you'll be that big 50, and then from there, 55, and then 60, and it's like, then you're really on borrowed time, right? And that's why my mindset, the way I've been feeling as of late, is live life to the fullest. If there's one thing if there's a positive thing, and I know this, I don't want this to sound fucked up in any type of way. So bear with me because again, this isn't rehearsed. I'm just telling you what's legit on my mind from my heart. Tomorrow is promised to no one. It's not owed to you. It is a gift. So with that gift, and every single time you're able to see another sunrise, you're able to see another sunset, comes an opportunity. And you got to put that best foot forward and live life to the fullest. Live your life while at the same time being able to say, yo, no regrets whatsoever. And I'm proud to say that mindset, I've had that for a couple of years now, and I have had some really great, positive, productive years recently and I'm just continuing to build off of that, and just nice big domino effect and everything. But yeah, tomorrow is promised to no one, man. This just, hopefully it makes you appreciate the here and the now even more. If you have kids, that loved one, put your arm around them, tell them how much you love them, how much they mean to you even more and everything. Life is so precious, and it's something that we really take for granted, man. It really, really is. It really, really is. Ever since my late ex-wife passed away several years ago, that, other than what happened with Jay Briscoe this week, I would say the only other time I have felt as rocked as I do right now was finding out about my ex-wife's passing. As we were cordial, and then we were friends. I legit forgot her birthday because I was dealing with some personal stuff, and that pretty much was the end of the friendship. But she ended the friendship. But I always had still a soft spot for her, but I respected her wishes and all that. And, just the way I had to find out about her passing, I didn't find out by a mutual friend of ours. I didn't find out by her parents. I didn't find out by, maybe a old work acquaintance. I didn't find a work colleague, a coworker, fellow coworker, former coworker. I didn't find out from, no. I found out, of all people, I found out from Tams. Tams, yeah, she just hit me up one day. She said, let me talk to you for a minute. And then she broke it down. And I remember how shook to the core I was when I found that out, and never did find out what was the cause of her death and all that. But back then, as far back then, and shout out to those of you that remember, me coming on the air and all of that in regards to the passing, as far back as then, that's what really got that ball rolling for me as far as living life to the fullest and all that, man. But yeah, very, very, very unfortunate news. Great seeing everybody sharing their memories of Jay Briscoe. It was great seeing the wrestling community you've seen it many times before, but this was just so unanimous, the way everybody just came together, and everybody's mourning and grieving, and we're trying to make sense out of this tragedy, but at the same time we're celebrating the man's life, and also at the same time we're reminding ourselves of what I said earlier about how precious life is. And it's great. It's great seeing how the community has just came together this week and trying to do its part in uplifting one another and everything. It's a beautiful thing to see. At the same time, though, it's just so goddamn sad that it has to take a tragedy such as this to make a community come together. Right? Because the deal, right? Next week, it's going to go right to, somebody doing some type of name calling or, making fun of something. You know how it goes down. You know how it goes down, right? I remember right before the news was announced, the one thing that had a lot of people kind of egging on was NWA. And as we all know, the Briscoes, they did do some stuff down there with NWA. They had participated in the, didn't they do something with the Crockett Cup? Because when they did something with the Crockett Cup there. But you see that interview that Billy Corgan had gave where he's talking about, the interest in NWA, it's off the charts. we've gotten like a 500% increase. And okay, if you got people that are going, yeah, man, that kind of sounds like some mad fucking inflation. That sounds like some straight up bullshit. Like, who you trying to kid? All right, if you want to say some stuff like that, I mean, look, you're entitled to that. If you feel that there's some serious inflation that's going on, all right, you're entitled to that. But there were comments that were coming in that was just so fucking ruthless. It wasn't even funny. And it was coming from people that never even spent the time or day to check out an NWA show. But just seeing the viciousness in the comment, go look at the comment thread. You'll see it on Twitter. Just go look at the thread. And you'll see some of the NWA stars, they actually reacted to that thread and made comments of their own. It was that bad. And you see that, and then the news of Jay Briscoe happened, and how everybody just flipped, right? And I wish that we could have this harmony like almost 90% of the time, even when we disagree. But the very next week, we already know it ain't going to be that way. There's going to be something else that's going to divide everybody, and it is what it is. It is what it is. Do we even talk about AEW Dynamite at this point? Do we even do that at this point? I kind of feel like we shouldn't, but, look, just take your minds off of that for a little bit, okay? Because I know that there's definitely those who, unfortunately, they didn't get really a good of enough opportunity to get a nice bite-sized sample of the Briscoes. I know that there are those of you out there that don't particularly care for Ring of Honor. Not personal, you just don't care for it. Some of you have maybe never gone out of your way to watch an episode of Ring of Honor. We'll segue. We'll talk some AEW. Couple of little wrestling news, little tidbits, but pretty much we're going to be in and out after this. Now look, this is probably going to be the shortest AEW Dynamite recap that I have done in recent memory, because there really wasn't that much going on during this episode. But you know what? Was a couple of little noteworthy things that had went down, which we can talk about and everything. So for starters, Orange Cassidy going up against Jay Lethal. This was for the All Atlantic Championship. Yeah, I did have a nice chuckle out of seeing Sanjay Dutt, why was I getting ready to say Ratnam Singh? I don't know why I was getting ready to say that. Maybe I meant to say Ratnam Singh? Satnam Singh, that's what it is. Satnam Singh. Where the fuck did I get the other stuff from? Anyway, I like how during this match we saw Satnam Singh, Sanjay Dutt, Jeff Jarrett. They were in the crowd section, and they basically kicked out of their seats 3 fans. Yes, 3 fans that had their tickets for the show, sitting there enjoying their fucking seats, enjoying the action, and you got Jeff Jarrett and them kicking them out of those seats. I looked at that spot and I said, my God, they're literally ripping a page from the wrestling headlines. You get it? You get it? You get it? You got to go back last week or whatever to get it. Hopefully you did peep that when it went down, because it was pretty hilarious when they did that. But in-ring action between Jay Lethal, Orange Cassidy. I gotta say, of all the matches that was on the card tonight, this one, besides seeing Orange Cassidy facing, oh man, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank already on my man's name. Darby Allin versus Kushida. Other than the main event match, yeah, I would say this was definitely pretty good. Pretty good, strong opener that they had here for the All Atlantic Championship. Orange Cassidy retaining the title. I got some complaints, though. One, it felt like the match was a bit too short. I kind of felt as though this should have gone a bit longer. I didn't particularly care for the shenanigans that was going on at ringside. For those of you that maybe have felt that this was a little bit random, that we had Jeff Jarrett and crew out here, well, remember, Jay Lethal is their boy. He's part of that whole little, right? So, I know a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to sour all over it because Jeff Jarrett is involved, but until I see Jeff Jarrett win a championship off of somebody, I'm just going to continue to say, okay, he's obviously enhancing the younger talent. He's enhancing, key future main eventers or whatever. Okay, whatever. I don't have a problem with that, okay? We just saw them work, for the most part, a pretty good program there with the Acclaimed. Speaking of the Acclaimed, got some stuff to say about the Acclaimed in a hot little bit. Weird what went down post-match, seeing Satnam Singh entering the ring, as well as the Best Friends, and then Singh looked like he was maybe going to go for a double choke slam, but you got Sanjay Dutt. Please, man, I'm not trying to get fired. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Jeff Jarrett taking a nice cherry red guitar, was getting ready to go to the head of Orange Cassidy, and Sanjay Dutt grabbing the guitar. No, man, I'm not trying to get fired. No. Cassidy then doing his trademark little light kicks to the ankles of Sanjay. Sanjay getting so mad he was ready to go at it there, and Jarrett and crew pretty much pulling him away and all that. That's pretty much how all of that ended for that first whole segment and all. I didn't particularly care for all of that slapstick comedy stuff. It was a little bit overkill for me per se. It really took away and diluted the match that was going on between Cassidy and Jay Lethal, because I felt they actually had put on, I won't say a classic, but they definitely put on a pretty good match for what it was worth. By the way, did y'all peep out some of the AEW stars that were pushing a Love J wristband, a little wristband that they had going on? Not wrists, well, some had wristbands. I think mostly everybody though had armbands going on, showing love for Jay Briscoe. You had the Young Bucks pushing it. I'm trying to think. Chris Jericho was pushing one. Cool Hand Luke definitely was pushing one. I'm trying to think who else was pushing it. It'll come to me later on, because I remember I did jot down a few names in the notes, but there were definitely some AEW stars that were representing. Young Bucks taking on Type Flight. Your next matchup, Darius and Dante Martin. Top Flight getting a upset win over the Young Bucks. Nice pacing in this one. Match did start off slow, I will definitely say that. But you know what? After they took a quick commercial break that was picture-in-picture, but I think it went into a full commercial break, that's when things kicked up a notch. And I really fucking enjoyed the hell out of this. It's interesting because on the one hand, right, you've heard me on this show from time to time, man. It's like 1 minute we'll get these Young Bucks that'll just dial it up, call their favorites and all that, right? Just super kick, right? All the little crazy spots. They didn't go too overboard here, but I did feel that, okay, you know what? If we could have maybe trimmed about 3 minutes, and there was at least, grand total, there was at least about, I would say, I'll be more kinder, there was at least 2 to 3 minutes of near falls, false finishes that I've honestly could have done without. And the way that this match was done, it was almost booked and layout wise, as far as the performers in the ring goes, it was almost done in a Briscoe-ish kind of way. I definitely had dug this. Guns and Acclaimed had a talking segment where all shit was about to break loose. Billy Gunn breaking the two respected teams up and pretty much saying, we're going to talk this out next week. And pretty much saying 2 words for you: family therapy. So that should be an interesting slapstick segment coming up next week. Hangman Adam Page chatting it up with Renee Paquette. Renee tells Page that Moxley had apparently told her that Page really pushed him to be a better wrestler. Page understands the nature of wrestling. He definitely understands the jokes. So when he told Moxley that he'd knock him out, he, he fucking lived up to it and everything. He pretty much owed him a receipt when it's all said and done. Renee asks Hangman, where does he go from here? And Page says that there is some tough conversations that he needs to have. He's got to mend some fences that have needed to be mended for a long time now. So, does this have to do with the Bucks? Or are we talking about the Dark Order? Or are we talking about all the above? Is the question right here. So the interview ends, and it's kind of weird the way it ended because, I wish that a director or cameraman would have said, and cut. Okay, guys, we're done. I wish they could have done that. Call me a stickler for detail, but the reason why I'm saying that is because immediately after the interview ends, Renee and Adam just go right into acting like the cameras were automatically turned off and, that's it. And you got Renee basically ending the interview, and Hangman's going, so for real, how is John? What's going on with him? And she tells him, well, you know how he is. He's been at this for a long time now. He's just going to dust himself off and get on the horse again there. And Paige is getting ready to ask Renee to pass along a message to Moxley. But then he says, never mind. It's stupid. And you're going, huh? And remember, when we were here last week, I remember I said something along the lines of, you do this right. I could definitely see something going on here where Moxley, Hangman, they form some type of a tag team, maybe out of this whole crazy process that went down between these two and this long-term program that they had. Maybe there is mutual respect that is established, right, that develops between these two, and maybe it leads to them being a tag team. Let's wait and see what happens. So I like the seeds that have been planted here for quite a few directions with the Hangman. So definitely looking forward to seeing this continue to unravel. Ricky Starks taking on Jake Hager. Hey, look, it served its purpose. It served its purpose when it's all said and done. It was a 6-minute match. It wasn't a squash match by any stretch. It wasn't a squash match, but it was just... You looked at this strictly from a storyline standpoint. Yeah, Ricky definitely needed the victory here because they're setting up, I believe, next week's Dynamite or the week after? They're setting up a Dynamite where Chris Jericho and potentially Daniel Garcia or Sammy Guevara. It really has to do with what happens with this Friday's Rampage, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But basically, they're going to be teaming up to face the team of Ricky Starks and Action Andrade. So for Ricky Starks to go into here and pick up a win over Jake Hager, I mean, pretty much a no-brainer right here. Post-match, Jericho Appreciation Society, they try to attack, but Starks makes his way through the crowd pretty quickly, and that pretty much was the end of that one. Bryan Danielson taking on Bandito. Remember, this is the continuation of Danielson winning these matches. If he can win all the way up until February 8th, then he's going to get a shot at MJF's AEW World title at AEW Revolution on March 5th. So, Danielson taking on Bandito. About 20 minutes, pretty close to 20 minutes. Danielson, no surprise, picking up the win right here. Great contest between the two of these guys. Easily. I can't believe I almost forgot about this. Was definitely, of all the matches, I would say, if you have Dynamite on your DVR, I would definitely say, you know, if you don't care about the other matches that we've talked about so far, you at least got to home in on this one. Really, really good shit that was here. Really good shit that was here from both men. Love this one. No complaints about this one whatsoever. We learned post-match MJF has been feeling a bit unappreciated, and that he's not deaf or dumb. You know, he's heard all the things that's being said about him, how he's not deserving. People have forgotten who he is and how he became champion. And he's taking all of this quite personally, like Michael Jordan. And pretty much fickle. He says to Bryan Danielson, again via the Titantron, that Bryan has only been dealing with the masked Max. That he likes to keep things light, have some fun, but that Danielson will find that the further Danielson goes, closer to March 5th, the more the mask will slip off, and Danielson and everybody else in AEW do not want that, as he's trying to put everybody on notice. We learn that after a commercial break or two, Danielson's next opponent, which is going to be on next week's Dynamite, is going to be the Machine, Brian Cage. That should be a very interesting matchup right there. Willow Nightingale faced Toni Storm. Toni Storm picking up the win. Look, I'm not a fan of the fucking roll-ups. Seriously, I'm not a fan of it whatsoever. You know, you gotta at least grab on that booty and you know, you gotta do something there. Grab a boot, you know, you gotta do something there. But I'm looking at this and I'm going, wait, what is Saraya doing? You know, I'm watching this match. I'm just jotting down some notes and I'm going, what's going on here? And I'm in my notes. I look up, and all of a sudden I see Saraya attacking the hell out of Willow Nightingale, and I'm going, well, what the fuck is going on here? Wait a minute. Did I miss something? Why is Saraya? You know, I rewinded it back, and I see at one point the referee is pretty much distracted, and Saraya comes in there, and she decides to freaking, at the last freaking minute, she decides to jump up on the rope, do a little cheap attack there on Willow. I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. What the hell is going on here? Very weird what was going on. Saraya was on the apron. Willow heads over to her, and pretty much Toni Storm getting a roll up via tights. And you're going, what kind of shady shit is that? But then post-match, Saraya runs into the ring and just starts stomping the hell out of Willow as Toni Storm joins in. Ruby Soho runs down there. You know, she's trying to break it up and everything. And we see Saraya and Toni make their exit. That weird fucking sequence. So is Saraya now a heel? I'm just going, wait a minute. We haven't had Saraya on our TV for barely 2 months. If we're lucky, maybe 2 months now. And we've already flipped her. We've already fucking flipped her. What the fuck? This was just really one of those, what the hell is going on here? Seriously, what the hell is going on here? Of course, the wild card is Sheeta, because Sheeta, once again, was down at ringside with her little kendo stick. You know, of course, the question is, whose side is she on here? I don't know. I don't care. A lot of this shit don't make sense. But let's go back for a second on a more serious tip. So we had that episode of AEW Rampage from last Friday. And if you did not read my column recap / review of that episode over on the 401mania.com site, you get a free minute, go back and check it out. But I was not a fan of that main event tag match between Anna, JAS, what was it? Tay Mello, Ruby Soho, Willow Nightingale street fight. I wasn't a fan of it. Way too much blood. And hey, look, we could definitely chalk it up to piss poor blade job. We could definitely chalk it up to that. But, you know, take it a step further. And you could definitely make an argument that, man, at this stage in Ruby Soho's career, you know, she really doesn't need to do any of this crazy shit. Willow definitely doesn't. None of those girls really need to do any of that crazy shit that they were doing as far as blading each other. And then the spot there where Willow did the running sit-down power bomb of Anna Jay, you know, supposed to go through a table, but pretty much Willow really just sacrificed her butt. And then the way Anna Jay had landed, you were really concerned about her head and neck and everything. And it seems that she's okay, knocking on wood, you know, right? Thank heavens. But I really wasn't a fan of seeing all of that. But as I had pointed out in my review, I said, hopefully Tony Khan and them are going to build off of this. And this just wasn't a type of deal where, yeah, we're just hot-shotting for this week. You know, hopefully they will actually, and it seems like they're actually trying to do something. And I've been saying practically in all my reviews, every time Willow has been involved in a match, you know, she's definitely a future breakout star, definitely a future women's champion for ROH/AEW. You know, Tony Khan and crew, I've basically encouraged in my columns, they've got to stay on top of Willow. You know, you got an original breakout star right here in the making. And I like that they've continued to invest in Willow and everything. And I like what's happening with Ruby Soho this second go round. Because remember, she pretty much was in YouTube TV purgatory for a good minute there when it was all said and done. So, well, yeah, I like that. That's progress compared to what went down last Friday. My concerns, and seeing what's going on now, you know, let's keep rocking and rolling. Let's keep rocking and rolling. That's all I gotta say. Let's keep rocking and rolling. From there, some other stuff that we can get into. TNT Championship match. Darby Allin successfully retaining against Kushida. Kushida making his AEW Dynamite debut. Almost 15 minutes of a match. Solid matchup. Seemed to me to be more of a technical match, and I love these type of matches. I continue to be amazed at how versatile Darby Allin can be. You know, versus we're gonna do this crash test dummy type of match and everything, right? So this was more of your straight up wrestling match. You know, this wasn't your typical Darby Allin match. This was a straight up fun, badass wrestling match when it was all said and done. So I definitely got to give that one a honorable mention. Good match. Kushida looking damn good. Yeah, Kushida, that's going to be an interesting one. I'm very curious if Tony Khan and crew are able to do something long term with Kushida. I just can't help but wonder, okay, where are you going to plug him in? Are you maybe going to put him possibly with Takesha? Do you maybe do something with those two? Or, you know, what exactly is the plan here? Because you got to think that way, right? Sure, if you're going to do some one-off matches here and there with Kushida, great. But, I mean, look, not for nothing, but Kushida has some damn good matches in NXT before he rolled out. And so I'm not surprised. I hope that makes sense to you guys. I'm not surprised with what I saw of Kushida in AEW tonight. I knew what he could do. But my whole thing is, okay, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, what exactly is the plan here with Kushida? Yeah, how exactly, if you're Tony Khan and you're able to get that access to Kushida, what's the short-term plan? Because if all you're gonna do is just have him do these one-off matches here and there, yeah, he can stay fucking killing it, no doubt about it. He'll keep doing that successfully. But if you're trying to get something more out of him, that's where things I kind of feel could be a little bit tricky, all things considered. But decent episode of AEW Dynamite, despite the fact that I would imagine most folks were looking at this episode and was expecting, a lot more, right? Because I know for some people, man, don't care about the wrestling. For me, it wasn't about the wrestling. I could definitely understand that, because they're expecting something else as far as like a tribute show to Jay Briscoe. But remember, here's the problem with that, right? Here's where it gets interesting. Those that were looking for some type of a Jay Briscoe, right? Remember, these are potentially the same fans that may have had issue with the fact that every time you had turned around in the previous months, there was a lot of heavy ROH storylines that were in rotation on AEW television. That was a turnoff for some folks, right down to the point it was brought up a couple of times during media scrums in which Tony Khan addressed, and to the point they started doing less and less and just really focused on particular titles. Okay, let's just focus on the ROH championship. All right, let's just focus on the ROH women's title. Or, hey, let's just focus on the ROH TV title. To their credit and all that. It's just less, and less. So it's kind of an interesting dilemma right here, is it not? Some would say, hell no, because, hey, a person had passed. But you kind of have to think that way, right? Right, so you say you don't want this, but yet you want us to at least do this. But you just said you don't care for... Right? So if you want to maybe say mixed signals, you could definitely make that argument, for sure. You could definitely make that argument. But in ring action, most of it was good for this week's Dynamite, I would definitely say. Hey, if you've been enjoying yourself so far, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe. Click the bell, all notifications, so you know about future content that comes your way. A couple of more things we can get into before we get ready to wrap it up for the night. So in regards to the card for this week's AEW Rampage, I do see the card here because I had jotted down some notes earlier. Let me hang on here. Let me just load this up for you guys, and I'll share with you guys what's going on. All right, so here's what we got for Rampage this Friday, the 20th of January, 10 p.m. Eastern. By the way, Rampage is coming on. Daniel Garcia versus Action Andrade. Now, nice stipulation for this one. If Garcia defeats Andrade, then Garcia will get to team with Jericho to face Andrade and Ricky Starks. However, if Garcia loses, then it's going to be Jericho and Guevara teaming up to face Andrade and Starks. Meanwhile, Eddie Kingston will be in the house. Talking segment for him. Brian Cage versus Willie Mack. I love Willie Mack, but we already know who's winning this, right? Because after all, Brian Cage is going to be facing Danielson on next week's Dynamite, so this is pretty much a no-brainer right here, but should still be a fun one-on-one matchup. Jade Cargill and Layla Gray will be in tag team action, and Ethan Page will go up against Jungle Boy Jack Perry. That's what all is going to be going down on this Friday's Rampage. For those of you that may be out and about this Friday, won't be able to check out Rampage, have no fear. Just bookmark the 401mania.com site. I will be live at 10 p.m. Eastern, covering the episode. Got a great community that's in the live commenting section. We're all responding to each other in real time as Rampage is playing out. So you're more than welcome to hang out for the hour. I mean, it goes by so goddamn fast, man. It's fun. So it's loads fun. All right, so we got that for you guys. And in some other wrestling related news, FTR, Dax Harwood, he revealed on last week's FTR podcast with Matt Coon that Tony Khan has granted them a leave of absence from AEW so they can recharge their batteries and figure out what their next move is going to be. That's why you've seen these guys dropping titles left to right. And I remember many weeks back alluded to the fact that, hey, you know, maybe they could potentially be going back to WWE or, and I did say, hey, maybe they're just going to take some time off the roads to recharge their batteries. They do have respective families and everything. You know, maybe they're going to just, you know, rest up for a little bit. And so Dax pretty much did confirm that their contracts, it's up in April with AEW, but that they were granted this opportunity by Tony Khan to take a few months off to recharge and everything. And since Tony Khan has echoed pretty much the same words that Dax Harwood has put out there and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see what moves these guys make in a matter of months. You know, a lot of people are keeping their fingers crossed. And, you know, look, I know originally some people were maybe hoping, I saw this out there, some were hoping that maybe they would make a Royal Rumble return. But, man, now that you've got Dax Harwood saying, hey, our contracts aren't up until April, you know, you're going, yeah, so as far as that Royal Rumble goes, you can pretty much forget about that. But then the question becomes, well, what about WrestleMania? Is it possible that maybe they could be the ones to pop up during WrestleMania and defeat the Usos for the tag titles? And remember, this year's WrestleMania is going to be a 2-night event happening April 1st and April 2nd at the SoFi Stadium. So, right, I mean, unless their contract expires on April 1st or April 2nd, yeah, that's a long shot. That is a significant long shot. I'm going to say no, don't even look for FTR at WrestleMania. That's a serious long shot, but I don't see that happening. So some interesting developments that's coming right there in regards to FTR and all that. Gail Kim, got to show her some love. She recently was interviewed, and she has taken notice of the fact that Mickie James is the Knockouts champion again. Remember, the last time Gail Kim had wrestled, it was at Impact Rebellion's pay-per-view event where she lost to Deonna Purrazzo. And she said that if Mickie James were to call her for a match, she would come out of retirement just like that, because she has so much love, admiration, respect for Mickie James, considers her a very near and dear close friend, would do anything for her, and that she would definitely come out of retirement only for Mickie James. So you know, there's a part of me that, you know, for selfish reasons, yeah, let's run it back one more time. I would love to see, I mean, man, they had so many great matches. I'm like, yeah, I would love to see them run it back again. Look, Gail can still go. Gail can definitely still freaking go. Obviously, Mickie James can still fucking go. Look, if you're going to have these two girls block it up once again, yo, the pay-per-view, the buy rates, it's got to be, you got to give that the proper respect and spotlight that it deserves. It's got to get all the right type of hype and all that in the world, man. I don't know, it may need a Conrad Thompson to step on in there and do a little something. I don't know. Speaking of people having potentially one more match or whatever, Jazz. We know Jazz had hung up her boots last year, and she recently had put some words out there in an interview. I forgot who she gave the interview to, but she was talking about how she could have a 5-star match with Charlotte. And you're going, wait, what? And you're like, interesting. And now, in part, what she had to say in regards to that, potential 5-star match, she said, I say it all the time when I'm asked this question. A good knee replacement. All right, so look, she's being candid here. She's being candid, and I appreciate somebody keeping it 100. A good knee replacement, a little cardio, Charlotte Flair. She's the truth. I love her work. I love everything about her in-ring performance. I really do. The next one would probably be Bianca Belair. I would like to work Charlotte because Charlotte is a worker. Her and I can go out there and I can call the spot and have a fucking 5-star match. I honestly feel that. Now look, not for nothing, but Jazz, a 2-time WWE Women's Champion. Let's not forget that one long ass reign that she had as the NWA Women's Champion. It lasted like almost 950 days, and that was like the longest reign since like the Fabulous Moolah in the 1970s or some shit, right? So, I appreciate Jazz being honest, saying, hey, look, I know that physically, even though she didn't say it out loud, you read in between the lines, hey, look, physically, I'm not where I used to be. Maybe as, fans remember from, my prime years. Yes, I definitely need some cardio. That's a nice way of saying, yeah, I could probably lose a little weight. Okay. Read in between the lines. Hey, I am moving around a lot slower. I need a really good knee replacement here, right? Okay, so she's being totally fucking honest. But if she's able to do those things and have a match, yeah, I legit believe. Big fan of Jazz. I'm a huge fan of Jazz. You guys know this because when I did the Jericho Cruise, what was it? Not last year. Yeah, no, I didn't. Did I do Jericho Cruise last year? No, Jericho Cruise. There was supposed to be a Jericho Cruise last year, but it got canceled. No, I did the Jericho Cruise that was in 2021. Yeah, I did a Jericho Cruise in 2021. And I was able to meet Jazz, and awesome, fucking awesome. I mean, it made my fucking weekend, on the cruise, being able to chat with her, tell her how much of a fan I am of her work, and what she meant to me as a wrestling fan and as a person of color. It was great seeing. My fellow brothers and sisters, I like what you're doing over there, right? Her and Bianca, oh man, dirty, man. That'd be a dirty feud right there, man. I would love to see that. I mean, if I had to choose between the two off the break, I'm more inclined. I mean, she gave some really good. I definitely think she could do a really good match with both girls, but I'm leaning more towards Bianca. I think just the program alone with that, and you got. I mean, it's fucking simple. It's so easy. I mean, you could easily have Jazz come on out there. You going on and on and on, running your mouth, always talking about how you the EST, and you ain't the EST or nothing. You ain't running nothing around here, little girl. I can just see Jazz just throwing that motherfucker out there and just pretty much calling herself the baddest bitch, and yeah, that I can fucking see. It'd be badass, without a doubt. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we can get into. I did not check out WWE Raw for this week. I was going to Tuesday night, but with the news, I just the news of Jay, I just really knocked me out. And I'm sure it knocked a lot of people out as well. I've been kind of poking my head, seeing what's going on with some of my colleagues, and I see some of them have been rocked, and they respectfully, I think as we just get out of this week and we go into the next week, maybe things will be a lot better and everything. And yeah, no shit, we got some more people that's suing the hell out of Vince McMahon. I'm aware of the latest lawsuits that's coming at him, and those things could really drag out for such a long period of time. Those lawsuits that it never may see a proper conclusion. You feel where I'm coming from? It may very well, we may never see it. For you New Japan Pro Wrestling fans, I got some Hiroshi Tanahashi news. It looks like he's re-upped his deal with New Japan. Apparently, this comes from his official blog. Hiroshi Tanahashi revealed that he's renewed his contract with New Japan. He didn't reveal the details about the length or the pay for the contract, and as many of you guys know, he's been with New Japan now for, God, hard to believe, but 24 years, because he debuted for them in 1999. But yeah, he's re-upped again. So for those of you that might have been wondering, what's going on with Tanahashi? I haven't really seen him. That's pretty much what's been going on. Look, I love Ace. I love him tremendously. You've heard me off and on here on the show over the years. I look at him. I have him in very high regard. I pretty much consider him to be my own personal view. Your take may vary, but I consider him to be the John Cena / Hulk Hogan of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I just hope that this new deal that they've inked out with him, I hope that we get to see him do more American crossovers, particularly not just with AEW, but I would love to see him do some stuff in WWE. There's a few people I'm looking at in WWE that I would love to see him work with. Definitely John Cena being near the top of that list. Not the number one, but definitely on that list. So only time will tell in regards to that. But yeah, other than that, I'm aware of the Royal Rumble stuff that's coming about. I'm aware of Cody Rhodes officially being announced. I don't think that was a no-brainer. I think we all knew deep down inside that Cody was going to be making a return at the Rumble from the minute that they started doing those videos of him, 3 weeks ago, it feels like. You just kind of got the vibe that, okay, yeah. But it doesn't mean that, hey, we could still be in for some surprises. The stuff about Logan Paul potentially popping up at the Rumble, I mean, look, if he's healthy and he can do it, I say pull the fucking trigger. Let's go. But only if he's 100% ready to go. If he's not quite near 100, right? Like, nah, we're gonna be okay, right? To hear that Royal Rumble has already sold out, and just everything that it's been able to do at the gates and all that, making it one of the most, some weird stat. It's as far as the buyouts go for the gates and all that, of all time, it is the most. Of all Rumbles, this is the one that sold out the most, that generated the most money, and it hasn't even aired yet. You're like, what the fuck? That's badass. That's some really good shit to hear, man. But of course, you got that dark cloud over your head that's known as Vince McMahon, right? It is what it is. It is what it is. Other than that, not really anything much else has transpired since last we were on the air with you guys. I mean, that's pretty much it. Unless there's something particularly you want me to dive into, I think we're pretty much done. So let me give you guys some quick programming notes. This weekend, I will be back live on the air and I will be covering WOW, Women of Wrestling Fallout, so look out for that. We uploaded an episode a couple of days ago, so if you guys maybe had missed that, definitely scoop it up when you get an opportunity. By the way, I got to put this out there right now, because I had a few people DM me, and for some that were looking for the shows via Spreaker, just Spreaker, I am aware that our show page has apparently disappeared. I think it's some type of a tech error on Spreaker's part. I have reached out to them to make them aware of what's going on. They can be slow in their responses, and sadly, by the time I had got this news, it pretty much was already like after 5 o'clock in the evening. I think this was like yesterday. So to my point, I should know something before Friday as far as what is... Oh, actually, hang on. Yeah, no, nothing yet. I thought maybe I got an email from them. Nothing yet. So I should hear something from them. If not Thursday, then at the latest Friday. So I'll make an announcement on social media for you guys that's strictly looking for the shows on Spreaker. As far as episodes being available on the other platforms, until I can get it resolved with Spreaker, the trickle down effect, it's like paused right now because we got to figure out what's going on with Spreaker's end, because it was through Spreaker we were able to drip the episodes to the other outlets. So give me until tomorrow. I should definitely have some type of an announcement, most likely good news, but I should have some type of an announcement what's going on with the tech issues that I'm having with them currently. So your home for now is YouTube for accessing the shows and all that, right? But other than that, let's stick a fork in it. Let's call it DONE, done. Be kind, rewind, check out previous episodes you might have missed on demand and on the downloads wherever you get your podcasts. Just search the RCWR Show. Get at me on Twitter and Facebook. Use the keywords the RCWR Show. Appreciate those of you that's been hitting me up on the Twitter. God, I can't stand the fake bots though, man, on Twitter particularly. I get the same fucking routine with the bots on Twitter. I'll get like, and it usually happens once a day, but now it seems like it's been picking up to twice a day. I'll usually get a follow from some stupid ass swimsuit fake model account, and no, you know, they're not tweeting people, they're just following a bunch of motherfuckers, and that's it. So obviously there's some type of an inflation thing that this account is trying to do, basically, and it's like, yeah, I can't go for that, and I'm automatically blocking them and fucking reporting them left and right. But the real ones that's out there, y'all know who you are. Thank you for showing love to me on Twitter, for sure, on the Facebook as well. Nice that we've been picking up the steam over there. And you know, once again, just kind of circling back to what I had said earlier, you know, tomorrow is not promised to anybody. So, you know, if the news of Jay Briscoe, you know, if it's taught me anything, you know, it's to live life with no regrets, because you just don't know. It could be over just like that. And, you know, in a perfect world, it'd be great if we knew the date, the time, the year that we're going to pass away, so that we can, you know, put all our affairs in order and all of that. But, you know, sadly, it doesn't operate that way, you know. And I would imagine this was a serious gut check and a reality check for a lot of people. I know a lot of people were shaken up to the core by this, and I don't know if anybody has started. I didn't see anything yet, but I don't know if anybody has started a GoFundMe for this family yet. But let me tell you something, man. I would imagine they are definitely going to need it for what is to come, because we're talking funeral arrangements, we're talking medical costs, we're talking a lot. We are talking a lot. So when that becomes available, I will definitely do my part, not only make a contribution, but definitely do my very best to spread the word about that. I hope you guys will join me in not only contributing, but spreading the word of it as well. But as we get ready to close out this episode, I only found it fitting that, we ended on this note. And when I came across this clip on social media earlier today, it put a smile on my face. And it's Jay Briscoe practicing some dance moves with his daughter. And, to just see the joy in his face, wearing a nice pretty little hair bow on his head, pretty much like his daughter, while they're doing the dancing and all that, just to see him share this intimate moment. It put a smile on my face. And I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but if you haven't seen it yet, I hope this does put a big smile on your face. And to everybody involved, to the friends, family, colleagues of Jay Briscoe, definitely Mark Briscoe, thoughts, prayers, condolences, prayers of strength right now, because this family, they need it now more than ever. You also got the family of the 27-year-old victim, the female driver of that one Silverado that passed away. Definitely thoughts, condolences, whole 9 yards to her respective family as well. As I mentioned earlier, these are two families. Lives are never going to be the same again and everything, and it's unfortunate. But to see this innocent side of Jay Briscoe, it just put a smile on my face, and it made me say, he's all right. He's all right. And I would imagine that if there is such thing as an afterlife, somewhere he's looking above and he's continuing to watch over his family. And hopefully he knows that he was greatly loved, respected, and appreciated by all of his peers in the wrestling community. Yeah? I'll see you guys next go around. Take care, y'all.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 7, 8.